For I will at this time send all my plagues upon thy heart, and upon thy servants, and upon thy people, that thou mayest know that there is none like me in all the earth. For now I will stretch out my hand, that I may smite thee and thy people with pestilence, and thou shalt be cut off from the earth. And in very deed for this cause have I raised thee up, for to show thee my power, and that my name may be declared throughout all the earth.
The graph below shows that in 2013, among men, Caucasoid men had the highest rate of getting melanoma of the skin, followed by American Indian, Alaska Native, Hispanic, Asian Pacific Islander, and then at the bottom they say black men. But I'm going to show you, you're going to see there's actually none for black men. Among women, white women had the highest rate of getting melanoma of the skin, followed by Hispanic, American Indian, Alaska Native, Pacific Islander.
If you look at the statistics in Israel, in the actual land of Israel today, them white people ain't the real Israelites over there. Skin cancer is at 60% in Israel. All right. So let me play this. This is very interesting, very powerful. And the Most High is speaking right now.
As the heroin epidemic continues to sweep across the country, a group in Seattle wants to set up safe houses to give addicts a place to shoot up with supervision.
When there was a drug issue in the African American community, we were prosecuted, we were put in jail, children were put in foster care, families were ripped apart. It was treated like a criminal justice issue. We had Rockefeller drug laws. Our jails were filled with men and women that looked just like me and people from the 43rd Assembly District. But now, we have an opiate issue. It is affecting another demographic, and now it is a health issue. And now we have to put money into diverting individuals from prison into treatment.
Now, of course, anytime you speak of black people getting anything, it's always a fight, it's always an issue, it's always a problem. But that's okay. You know, you can do it willingly, or you don't have to do it at all. But for what I'm seeing happening in America, the plagues that's constantly going on, it would be a lot easier to actually do it willingly, but that you did with God on that one.
Almost 2/3 of all gun deaths in the United States are from suicides, according to this study in the Annual Review of Public Health. And of those, most of them are white males.
And the only reason why they are having concern, because this mysterious disease is only attacking white people. And based on my research, some of them have actually died.
You're an inferior man on this planet. You're an inferior. I don't want to be in place of Most High when not white. Place of Most High when not white. The white man is dying a slow death. That's all. This is what you black people don't understand. The white man is dying a slow death right before your eyes. The very air that he breathes is destroying him. Why? Because he is inferior based on his biological process of how God made him. God made him. Where's his melanin? People tasting the melanin protects you from the sun's rays. It protects you from the cool air. Huh? It protects you from the moonlight. Huh? Think about it. You have receding genes. The hair that comes out of white people's hair is dead hair. That's right. It's spelled to be that comparable to wolf's hair. Huh?
Well, a medical mystery is being investigated in Montgomery County. It's a lung infection that has been linked to water.
Health reporter Stephanie Stahl says the illness is rare, but the number of patients is growing.
The unlikely victims are white, thin, postmenopausal women who live in affluent neighborhoods around the main line.
It's frightening, I think.
We're at the end of the time of the white world to dominate black people and original people all over the planet. Can't you see that? Can't you see that the God of justice is whipping the hell out of America with the storms, with floods, with hail, with hurricane, with tornadoes? Can't you see that things are happening?
Word from the God of Israel on this Shabbat, on this Sabbath day. If you let his people go, are you going to have him to deal with?
All praises, honor, and glory to the Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and shalom and blessings to my brothers and sisters out there. This video is entitled The Second Exodus, Plagues Part 2. We entitled this video that because after viewing the first video that we did, our hopes is that we gained the understanding that the final kingdom to fall will have no return. But not only that, but this fall is a divine judgment from the Most High. So only question remains as to how this kingdom will fall. And we're going to give some scripture to explain how this kingdom will fall. And we're going to start with a quick recap of scriptures that we gave in hopes that it would give some insight to how this fall will happen.
Revelation 18:4. And I heard another voice from heaven, saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and receive not of her plagues. The Targums of Ankylos, Genesis account. Knowing thou must know that thy son shall dwell in a land not their own, because thou hast not believed. And they will subjugate and afflict them 400 years, and also that the people whom they shall serve I would judge with 250 plagues.
Okay, so we have two precepts here. We have Revelations 18:4, which states, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. And then we have the Targum's account of Genesis, which states that the Most High would send 250 plagues on the final kingdom. These two witnesses are important because they actually speak about the Most High sending plagues on the final kingdom. The Targum, for example, mentions 250 plagues, but we know that Egypt was only hit with 10 plagues. That's what makes this particular verse important. But we're going to go into more scripture that will add to the validity of those scriptures as it is written precept upon precept, line upon line. But before we do that, we're going to also give some scriptures to give an understanding how the Most High operates and what to look for.
It may happen today, it may happen 10 years from now, it may happen 400 years from now, it may happen 1,000 years from now, but when the Most High says something, it is going to happen. Now, if he says that, if you look at what he did to Egypt the first time, the Most High is moving right now against these nations, and you can see that he's moving against them based on what's happening to him. But now if you look at how he operates, how does he operate? What did he do in Egypt? How did he press Egypt? How he pressed Egypt is going to pale in comparison to what he going to do to this nation and all nations. He about to smash on these nations. And guess what? Israel, you will be wise to get out of the way.
Ecclesiastes 1:9. The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new, it hath been already of old time, which was before us?
So the Most High says, the things that have been, it is that which shall be, and there is no new thing under the sun. This scripture is made more evident in the precepts that will be shown. The same way the Most High delivered Israel out of the hands of the Egyptians with plagues, so should be the deliverance from this final kingdom. Not only this one fact that these plagues will come, but also a purge of the disobedient will take place in the wilderness, just as our forefathers were purged of those who rebelled against the Most High.
Passing of the cup. First I have to talk about who has the cup, because actually the reason why you have the cup, Yasharal, or reason why you had it, was the simple fact that your ancestors failed to keep the law, statutes, and the commandments of the Most High. The Most High told you in Deuteronomy what he would do to you if you didn't keep the commandments. Each time you guys fell away from him, he will fall away and turn his back on you, rightfully so, because you got the creator of the universe that has given you everything. He gave you everything that you needed. And you didn't really need a king, but he gave you that too. You went into judgment because of your forefathers. All of these brothers that are teaching who Israel is, that was actually a trigger. Because now guess what's happening? You have Israelites now keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, and they also have faith in Mashiach. So what does that do? That allows the passing of the cup and the transition to happen. So now that the transition is happening, what is that? He is taking away the plagues and the curses off of Israel, because we are keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, and he's giving it to not one nation, but he's giving it to all nations that offended us, that were against us, that injured us.
Yes, we are the true children of God. I know that, because only the true children of God would be hated that much. I know that the scriptures have said it so many times. I get that. And this is why the judgment is starting to hit now. And it's going to increase. Think about that.
The book of Isaiah 51:21. Therefore hear now this, thou afflicted and drunken, but not with wine. Verse 22. Thus saith thy master, the Most High, and thy Elohim that pleadeth the cause of his people. Behold, I have taken out of thy hand the cup of trembling, even the dregs of the cup of my fury. Thou shalt no more drink it again. Verse 23. But I will put it into the hand of them that afflict thee, which have said to thy soul, bow down, that we may go over. And thou hast laid thy body as the ground, and as the street to them that went over.
So here you have the Most High looking down and understanding his children are being afflicted. In Isaiah 51:21, he says, hear now this, thou afflicted. He says to his children, to the children of Israel, behold, I have taken out of thy hands the cup of trembling, even the dregs of the cup of my fury. Thou shalt drink it no more again. But what does the Most High say after that? He says, I will put it in the hands of them that afflict thee, which say to thy soul, bow down, that we may go over thee, and thou hast laid thy body as the ground.
So the Most High is beginning to take up defense against these heathen for the sake of his people.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 25, verse 15. For thus saith the Most High, Elohim of Israel, unto me, take the wine cup of this fury at my hand, and cause all nations to whom I send you to drink it, and they shall drink and be moved and be mad because of the sword that I will send among them.
So in Jeremiah 25 and 15 through 16, the Most High says, take the wine cup of this fury at my hand, and cause all nations to whom I send thee to drink it. Okay, so the Most High is transferring the curses that were put on Israel, or that cup that Israel had to drink from. He's transferring it over into the heathen's hands, and he's causing every nation to whom he sent Israel, where they were scattered, to drink of that same cup that Israel had to drink of.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 30, verse 16. Therefore all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity, and they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all that prey upon thee will I give for a prey.
Okay, so Jeremiah 30 and 16 gives that example of the cup being transferred. It says, therefore all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thy adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity, and they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all that prey upon thee will I give for a prey. So didn't these heathen devour Israel? Didn't these heathen become adversaries towards Israel? Didn't they take us into captivity? Didn't they spoil us? Didn't they have us as a prey, killing our people? So the same things that they did, the Most High is going to return the recompense upon their own head.
You're reaping what you've sown. Your children are reaping what our forefathers sowed into their lives, which was destruction, murder, strife, slavery. And you think for a moment that a just God is going to stand by and not allow justice to come forth?
Over and over, it's become the iconic footage. Students running from a school with their hands up. Columbine, Sandy Hook, and now Parkland. School shootings so familiar they go by just one name. Images that look so similar, and yet each time, new families are ripped apart. According to Everytown for Gun Safety, this is the 18th time a gun was fired on school grounds this year.
The incident in Oregon marks the 74th shooting on a school campus since the December 2012 mass shooting in Newtown, Connecticut, and the 37th school shooting so far in 2014.
U.S. middle-aged white Americans with relatively low education are experiencing rising mortality from alcoholism, drug addiction, and suicide. Now that's all at the same time that every other racial and ethnic group somehow has decreased, but this has increased. So something has gone terribly wrong.
So breaking news to my white family out there. The real enemy is you. The real enemy is you. And you want to stop the blood that's going to be shed all over your land and in your homes and in your schools and in your towns and in your villages? Then you better start paying attention to yourself. It's your people. It's you. You're the enemy. Look at your track record. Look at your history. And you think that's not going to come back on you?
Okay, earlier I made a statement that plagues and curses are one and the same. So in order to prove this, what I'm going to do is give a comparison between two books. One book is the book of Baruch, which is in the Apocrypha, and another book is the book of Daniel, which is in the regular KJV.
Now, these chapters that I'm reading from will be basically saying the same thing. The only difference is where one uses the word curses, the other one will use plagues to describe what the Most High did to Israel.
The book of Baruch, chapter 2, verse 1. Therefore the Most High hath made good his word, which he pronounced against us, and against our judges that judged Israel, and against our kings, and against our princes, and against the men of Israel and Judah. Verse 2. To bring upon us great plagues, such as never happened under the whole heaven, as it came to pass in Jerusalem, according to the things that were written in the law of Moses, that a man should eat the flesh of his own son, and the flesh of his own daughter. Moreover, he hath delivered them to be in subjection to all the kingdoms that are round about us, to be as a reproach and a desolation among all the people round about where the Most High hath scattered them.
Okay, now, so the book of Baruch, chapter 2, verse 1 says, Therefore the Lord hath made good his word, which he pronounced against us, and against our judges that judged Israel. Then when we go to verse 2, it says, to bring upon us great plagues, such as never happened under the whole heaven, as it came to pass in Jerusalem. So we're going to read the same thing in Daniel, but before we do so, I'm going to show something else. Verse 3 says that a man should eat the flesh of his own son. Wasn't that a curse? Verse 4 says, moreover, he hath delivered them to be in subjection to all kingdoms that are round about us, to be as a reproach and desolation among all people. Wasn't that a curse that was put on Israel, to be scattered and to be a desolation?
The book of Daniel, chapter 9, verse 11. Yea, all Israel have transgressed thy law, even by departing, that they might not obey thy voice. Therefore the curse is poured upon us, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of the Most High, because we have sinned against him. And he hath confirmed his words, which he spake against us, and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil. For under the whole heaven hath not been done as hath been done upon Jerusalem.
Okay, so now I'm going to paraphrase what Daniel 9 and 11 says. It says, all Israel have transgressed thy law, even by departing, that they might not obey thy voice. Therefore the curse is poured upon us. Okay, furthermore, it says in Daniel 9 and 12, and he hath confirmed his words which he spake against us, and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil. For under the whole heaven hath not been done as hath been done upon Jerusalem. So what you see here is in the book of Daniel, they utilize the word curses, where in the book of Baruch they utilize the word plagues. And that's the comparison between the two. One uses curses and the other uses plagues to describe what the Most High did to us.
Normally this only happens during a time of plague or epidemic or war for these death rates to jump, certainly over the past century. And what they looked in a bunch of different places, and they found out a lot of these deaths, most of these deaths, are tied to what are called deaths of despair.
What we are seeing now is we are actually seeing the plagues hitting these nations. Let's look at the condition of what's happening to what you would call white people, or call them Edomites. Y'all the weakest people on earth, because when things go awry, the first thing that enters your mind is, okay, I'm gonna kill myself, I'm gonna kill my family.
In the meantime, white men have made up 83% of suicides in males. Those numbers are going through the roof.
Who does that? What the so-called African Americans went through in the United States alone, what they have gone through and they still not committing suicide like how y'all commit suicide. The suicide rate right now amongst your people is sky high. You guys win in that category. You guys are the winners at killing yourself. Now, is this part of the plague? Absolutely. Because what gets into a white supremacist mind that says, okay, I hate niggers, let me go kill some white people? Contrary to popular belief, melanated people can live anywhere. But what's interesting is what's happening with the sun right now. The sun right now, the UVA, the UVB, the UVC rays are not a joke. They are serious. And right now, they are tearing the white people up. The people, the so-called people in Israel, if that's your land, why is the UVA, UVB, and UVC rays tearing your ass up over there right now? You guys are getting an inordinate amount of skin cancer over there right now?
The skin cancer rate in Israel is among the highest in the world. The Israel Cancer Association reported yesterday at the end of 2000 there were 3,631 skin cancer patients in Israel and around 200 died every year from the disease. The sun kicking their ass because you ain't supposed to be in that land. You don't got enough pigmentation.
Chemtrails, and they've been spraying. Planes been spraying these clouds all day, and you see what it really does to the sun. Regular clouds don't actually do this to the sun. This has this misty type of haze in it that makes the sun is actually reflecting back instead of shining through.
You were the people, you are so called the people of the book, and yet you can't exist over there because them rays is tearing your ass up. Maybe somebody's trying to tell you something. Get out. You don't belong here.
But I want you to understand that you, wherever you are on the earth, you are not a native anywhere. You came there and took it from the native people who are there. So please don't talk about going back, because if others talk to you about that, where would you go?
Right now, your addiction to heroin and your overdoses, you guys are overdosing so much that the morgues are filled, and they have to sell temporary morgues, and you can research this.
Overwhelmed and out of room. Right now, the Stark County Coroner's Office is using an emergency portable morgue. And we wanted to know why. The Now's Tara Molina learned the heroin epidemic is playing a role here, so she set out to work finding out if other local counties face a similar situation.
It's definitely not the kind of thing you want to think about, but this temporary morgue can hold all of the extra bodies that this office can't.
They have to set up temporary morgues for you because you are dying at such an alarming rate with this opioid epidemic. There are so many deaths now, they can't even count them. They done stop counting them.
They keep going to this 115 number, but if you remember, Trump's commission, opioid commission, said 175. You know, so I'm not surprised they're trying to lowball the number, because look at how bad the situation is. In Louisville, the overdose fatality rate is 43 deaths per 100,000, is more than double the national rate. It's largely due to opioids, including heroin and fentanyl.
And so this heroin, opioid, cocaine, methamphetamines, Oxycontin, this is a plague, and we see it. We not people, but so-called African Americans, the true Israelites used to be on heroin back in the 70s. We don't be shooting up now. That's y'all. You got cases where y'all shooting up, sitting in the car with your babies. What idiot shoots up with your babies? And you got them in the back seat, and you and your friend, y'all passed out. Two white females, y'all passed out. And y'all on a trip, and both y'all babies in the back seat. Who does that? The incarceration rate for the Peckerwood has been steadily rising, while the so-called African Americans' incarceration rate has been declining.
This one, meth-related charges, felony for trafficking meth. 7 years, heroin ring. See, these are all white people. And this is what the majority of the articles are that I find. Yeah, you might see a few black people sprinkled in there, but the white people always outnumber the blacks when it comes down to dealing drugs.
That's a phenomenon that, what? Wait a minute. All of a sudden now, there's a lot of Peckerwoods getting locked up. Well, in reality, if you look at a typical Peckerwoods rap sheet, his rap sheet will be longer than my arm.
And many of these people, ladies and gentlemen, have been arrested more than once. They, you know, don't look at them as so innocent. Damn near all of the ones that I'm showing you got rap sheets.
The FBI statistics will show you and point to you who is doing all of the crime. The latest FBI statistics of 2017 will illustrate for you who's doing the crime here in the United States and who's doing all the hate. Guess who is the leader in every statistical category? It's not the so-called African American. It is you, the so-called white man, the Edomite.
Okay, no more of this. Black people are 13% of the population that commit all the crimes. No. White people commit all the crimes, damn near all the crimes in America. And I'm going to show you on this FBI table, which shows the 2016 numbers, ladies and gentlemen. They lead in all the crime except for 2 categories. But everything else, they lead in overwhelmingly over everybody else in America. So the next time they open their mouth talking about you are 13% of the population but committing 50% of the crime, they are lying their asses off. And this table is going to show you 2 things. It's going to show you how white people are out here committing felonies and all kinds of atrocities, and they don't go to jail.
The book of Exodus, chapter 32, verse 11. And Moses besought the Most High, his Elohim, and said, Lord, why doth thy wrath wax hot against thy people, which thou hast brought forth out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand?
Okay, so the book of Exodus 32 verse 11 says, And Moses besought the Lord his Elohim, and said, Lord, why doth thy wrath wax hot against thy people, which thou hast brought forth out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand? Okay, so the part of this verse we're going to focus on is with great power and a mighty hand, because this is the method in which the Most High delivered Israel. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at some precepts that use that same language, and also look at some scripture that will show what these words encompass or what they mean.
Deuteronomy chapter 4 verse 33. Did ever people hear the voice of the Most High speaking out of the midst of the fire, as thou hast heard and lived? Or hath the Most High essayed to go and take him a nation from the midst of another nation, by temptations, by signs, and by wonders, and by war, and by a mighty hand, and by a stretched out arm, and by great terrors, according to all that the Most High your Elohim did for you in Egypt before your eyes?
Alright, so we just read Deuteronomy 4 and 33 through 34. But we're going to focus on Deuteronomy 4 and 34 because it describes the method or the language used to describe the Most High's deliverance of Israel. And it said he did it by temptations, by signs, and by wonders, and by war, and by a mighty hand, and by a stretched out arm, and by great terrors. Okay, so we see more of the same type of language being used to describe the Most High delivering Israel. So even though the specifics are not given, we can still understand that these are events or things that happened that ultimately crippled Egypt and left them with no recourse but to let the children of Israel go.
The Apocrypha, Book of Judith, chapter 5, verse 11. Therefore the king of Egypt rose up against them, and dealt subtly with them, and brought them low with laboring and brick, and made them slaves. Then they cried unto their Elohim, and he smote all the land of Egypt with incurable plagues. So the Egyptians cast them out of their sight, and the Most High dried the Red Sea before them.
Okay, so we examined the various scriptures that give credence to the type of language used to describe the Most High's deliverance of Israel out of the hands of the Egyptians. But for the most part, we've seen the mighty hand and stretched out arms. So now we move on to Judith chapter 5, verse 11 through 13. And we're going to focus on verse 12. It says, Then they cried unto the Most High, and he smote all the land of Egypt with incurable plagues. So the Egyptians cast them out of their sight. So what do we see? We see that the Most High delivered Israel out of the hands of the Egyptians with a mighty hand and stretched out arms and etc. And what did that mean? It means that the Most High hit Egypt with plagues. Okay, so we've looked at the precepts and we've examined the type of language used to describe the Most High's deliverance of Israel. And the precepts have confirmed that when the Most High was using this type of language, such as a mighty hand and stretched out arm, that he meant plagues. Those were past events. So now we're going to look at current and future prophecy of the plagues and see if that type of language is used also to describe future deliverance of Israel.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 20, verse 33. As I live, saith the Most High Elohim, surely with a mighty hand, and with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out, will I rule over you. And I will bring you out from the people, and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered, with a mighty hand, and with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out.
Okay, in Ezekiel chapter 20 verse 33, it says that the Most High will rule over Israel with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm and with fury poured out. This is describing Israel going under the bond of the covenant. So what we're going to do is go to the next verse in 34. And it says, And I will bring you out from the people, and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye were scattered, with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm and with fury poured out. Okay, so we know this is future prophecy because this is after the dispersion of Israel. Notice, because we were not dispersed into all different countries or scattered into different countries when we were in captivity in Egypt or in Babylon, or while we were in captivity to the Persians. Nevertheless, you see that same language being used that was used to describe our deliverance out of the land of Egypt. So what does it mean now? What does it mean for today? The precepts would show that it means exactly what it meant then, and that there is no new thing under the sun. All the wars, disease, and famine, all the social injustice, all the spiraling down of the economy is the doing of the Most High. All these things are culminating to prepare us to leave this place.
The Apocrypha, 2nd Ezra chapter 16 verse 1. Woe be unto thee, Babylon and Asia. Woe be unto thee, Egypt and Syria. Gird up yourselves with sackcloth and garments of hair, and bewail your children, and lament, for your destruction is at hand. A sword is sent upon you, and who is he that may turn it back? A fire is sent upon you, and who is he that may quench it? Plagues are sent unto you, and what is he that may drive them away? May any man drive away an hungry lion in the wood, or may anyone quench the fire in stubble when it hath begun to burn? May one turn again the arrow that is shot of a strong archer, The mighty Lord sendeth the plagues, and who is he that can drive them away? A fire shall go forth from his wrath, and who is he that may quench it? He shall cast lightning, and who shall not fear? He shall thunder, and who shall not be afraid? The Most High shall threaten, and who shall not be utterly beaten to powder at his presence?
So in 2nd Ezra chapter 16, we get a vivid look at the Most High's mentality towards these nations and what he's going to do to them. Chapter 16 verse 8 specifically mentions plagues when it says, the mighty Lord sendeth the plagues, and who is he that can drive them away? But then in chapter 16 and 10, you see the gravity of the anger of the Most High towards these nations when it says, he shall cast lightning, and who shall not fear? He shall thunder, and who shall not be afraid? The Lord shall threaten, and who shall not be utterly beaten to powder at his presence. So the understanding gained from reading these passages should be that the things that we have seen is nothing compared to what the Most High is going to do.
May be a little confusion because in the King James it says the wages of sin is death, and yet in the Mirror Bible it says the rewards of the law is death. Well, how do you hook that together? Well, first of all, understand the devil is not trying to get you to sin. He's just trying to get you to keep the law, because if he can get you to keep the law, you will sin.
I don't know how many brothers and sisters know this, but there's a reason why the Most High took us out of Egypt before he gave us the law, statutes, and commandments. There's a reason why this kingdom operates the way it does in such lawlessness. There's a reason why the Most High says, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins.
And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently.
The law is literally our strength that we have with the Most High.
And to do all his commandments.
The law is literally what will protect us from the nations.
The Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
This place knows that. The people that brought us here know these things. That's why they want to keep us in perpetual lawlessness and sin. Through their holidays, through their wicked practices, through their paganism, through all their laws that are against the Most High's laws, they want to keep us separated from the Most High for a reason.
I don't have a problem with that. It's the fact that he says he's a Jew. It's the fact that he says he makes subscriptions to the Torah. And since he's saying that, the things that he's saying is contradicting the things that are going on within that book. Hey, yo, for the Hebrews that's out there, man, I want y'all to load up that chat room of all the verses where you guys are the chosen people of Israel. Because for some reason, these guys don't know nothing about that. They never heard of that. This shit is the biggest conspiracy I've ever seen in my life.
Because they know that when we come back to the Most High in obedience, obeying his laws, statutes, and commandments, they cannot touch us.
The Apocrypha, Book of Judas, chapter 5, verse 17. And whilst they sinned not before their Elohim, they prospered, because the Most High that hateth iniquity was with them. But when they departed from the way which he appointed them, they were destroyed in many battles, very sore, and were led captives into a land that was not theirs. And the temple of their Elohim was cast to the ground, and their cities were taken by the enemy. But now they are returned to their Elohim, and are come up from the places where they were scattered, and have possessed Jerusalem, where their sanctuary is, and are seated in the hill country, for it was desolate. Now therefore, my Lord and Governor, if there be any error in this people, and they sin against their Elohim, let us consider that this shall be their ruin, and let us go up, and we shall overcome them. But if there be no iniquity in their nation, let my Lord pass by, lest their Lord defend them, and their Elohim before them, and we become a reproach before all the world.
Judas chapter 5 verse 21 says, "But if there be no iniquity in their nation, let my Lord pass by, lest their Lord defend them, and their Elohim be for them." So do you see this, brothers and sisters? These nations know that the Most High would defend us if there is no iniquity within our nation. That's the reason why these theologians teach these Christian doctrines of the law being done away with. How could the same error that caused us to fall be the solution to us coming back to the Most High? But even in that lies the importance of us understanding who we are in the first place.
Their rituals, they're called Beit Israel. You're going to have to just see it for yourself. Let's take a look.
We're not Christians, we're not Muslims, we're not Jews, we're Israelites. We are the link between the Most High, the Creator, and the rest of mankind. That's what we believe in.
The group believes their forefathers were uprooted from the Holy Land after breaking the law of commandments. However, their story of slavery and exodus brought them far from the land of Egypt.
By way of transatlantic slave trade, my family was taken to the eastern part of America and was in captivity in Mississippi.
We're the poorest of the poor on this earth. We don't have any real collateral. We don't have a culture. We don't have a language. All that's been taken away.
The DNA of being an Israelite is still within them. It's in their blood. And right now it's reawakening, and they're slowly starting this process of getting back the culture, speaking this language, Paleo-Hebrew.
Bring Jake back. Bring Jake home. Bring Jake back. Bring Jake home. Bring Jake back.
Deliverance. What does that mean to you? It should be very, very significant to you, those who believe in Mashiach, those who keep the law, statutes, and commandments. Deliverance should be important because finally, after all that you've gone through, finally get to go home. And that everybody should be celebrating according to what's written in the book. And so, you found out that you were Israel. Now you're keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, and you have faith in Mashiach according to the book of Revelation. Been triggered and freed from Christianity, Buddhism, and Islam, and witchcraft, and all the other ridiculous religions that we've been involved in. And you're operating according to what our ancestors should have been operating. So, what's next? What should you be looking for? What should you be looking forward to? And your deliverance is what you should be looking forward to. And so, with your going home, you should be preparing in your mind, body, and spirit to actually leave wherever you are all over the earth. What I'm going to say is this. Once you are delivered, there are definitely going to be some do's and don'ts. Basically, the same do's and don'ts that you abide by now. Right now, we don't eat shrimp, pork, crab, and lobster. So again, I'm going to leave you with this. Keep the law, statutes, and commandments, and have faith in Mashiach. Build and look for your deliverance.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 45, verse 13. I have raised him up in righteousness, and I will direct all his ways. He shall build my city, and he shall let go my captives, not for price nor reward, saith the Most High of Hosts.
Okay, so in Isaiah 45 and 13, the Most High says that he shall let go my captives, not for price nor reward. This right here dispels the notion that we would somehow have to pay our way out of our captivity by getting passports or so on and so forth. Not only that, but we have to remember also that the Most High is our Redeemer. And we must also remember that the Most High said that we would be sold unto our enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man would buy or redeem us. I think a lot of brothers and sisters get discouraged because they wonder how we will put an end to our captivity. But the fact of the matter is that we don't have any power to do so. But this would be a perfect opportunity for the Most High to show his power.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 20, verse 35. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face, like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt. So will I plead with you, saith the Most High Elohim.
Okay, so in Ezekiel 20 and 35, the Most High says that he would bring Israel into the wilderness of the people, and there he would plead with them face to face. What does it mean that he's going to plead with us? Well, we get a glimpse or understanding of that when we read 20 and 36. Just to paraphrase, he's basically going to plead with Israel the same way that he pleaded with our forefathers in the land of Egypt. Now we know when he pleaded with our forefathers, they were dying for their sins. At this point, there is no more grace for Israel. If you sin, you will die. It is at this point that we will go into a new covenant.
And I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant.
Okay, so Ezekiel 20 and 37 says, I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. Okay, time to rattle some Christian cages here. Contrary to Christian doctrine, we are not in the new covenant. Not only that, but the Most High didn't make a covenant or an agreement with everybody. And anybody disagreeing would be hard-pressed to find a scripture specifically outlining where the Most High says he would make a covenant with anyone other than the children of Israel.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 31, verse 31. Behold, the days come, saith the Most High, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah.
Okay, so we're going to read Jeremiah 31 and 31. And it says, behold, the days come that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. We don't see any other nations being mentioned here, but let's keep going.
Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was an husband unto them, saith the Most High. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, saith the Most High, I will put my law in their inward parts, and write it in their hearts, and will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Most High, for they shall know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith the Most High. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more.
Okay, Jeremiah 31 and 32 says that the covenant won't be according to the covenant that he made with our forefathers. In Jeremiah 31 and 33 it says, but this should be the covenant that I would make with the house of Israel. We still don't see any Gentile nations being mentioned. Hebrews 8 is basically saying verbatim the same thing that Jeremiah 31 is saying. The specifics of this new covenant says in 31 and 34, and they shall teach no more every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Most High. For they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them. The fact that we still have discussions concerning the Most High's commandments and his laws tells you that we're not in the new covenant yet. The fact that people are still willing to lie and not tell the truth that the so-called African Americans that were brought over into America as slaves are actually Israelites tells you that we're not in the new covenant. Okay, so let's finish taking a look at what will happen while we're in the wilderness.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 20, verse 38. And I will purge out from among you the rebels, and them that transgress against me. I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel, and ye shall know that I am the Most High.
Okay, so Ezekiel chapter 20 verse 38 says he will purge out from among us the rebels and them that transgress against him. The Most High says that he's going to bring them out of the countries where they sojourn, but they're not going to make it into the land of Israel. The same thing happened when the Most High brought our forefathers out of the hands of the Egyptians. those that were disobedient to the Most High died in the wilderness. So let's take a look at some of the things that people may be doing when they get in the wilderness.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 66, verse 15. For behold, the Most High will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword will the Most High plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Most High shall be many. They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh, and the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together, saith the Most High.
Isaiah 66 and 15 says the Most High is going to come like a whirlwind to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire. And in the next verse it says, for by fire and by his sword will the Most High plead with all flesh. You see, the Most High is not going to be begging you. Him pleading with you does not mean he's going to be begging. It says, in the slain of the Most High shall be many. So at this point, if you go against his word, you would die for it. It says, they that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the garden behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh, and the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together. So we all know if you're sanctified, that means you're a saint. Or purified, that means you're clean. There's only one people that are saints to the Most High. This is speaking on Israel. So you see, in the wilderness, it's probably going to be people still identifying themselves as Christians, going about trying to eat swine's flesh. And those that do will serve as an example to don't do it. So the only thing left to speak on now is what is required of us in order to come back to the Most High. What must we do in order to receive mercy from the Most High, that he may deliver us out of our captivity? The answer to that is simple. We must repent. And in order to do that, we must put down our pride. One of the clear indications of pride is strife and division. But let's see what the scriptures say we're supposed to do.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 51, verse 12. I, even I am he that comforteth you. Who art thou that thou shouldest be afraid of a man that should die, and of the Son of Man that should be made as grass? And forgettest the Most High thy Maker, that hath stretched forth the heavens, and laid the foundations of the earth, and hath feared continually every day because of the fury of the oppressor, as if he were ready to destroy. And where is the fury of the oppressor? The captive exile hastened that he may be loosed, and that he should not die in the pit, nor that his bread should fail. But I am the Most High thy Elohim, that divided the sea, whose waves roar. The Most High of hosts is his name. And I have put my words in thy mouth, and I have covered thee in the shadow of my hand, that I may plant the heavens, and lay the foundation of the earth, and say unto Zion, thou art my people. Awake, awake, stand up, O Jerusalem, which hast drunk at the hand of the Most High the cup of his fury. Thou hast drunken the dregs of the cup of trembling, and wrung them out.
Look, brothers and sisters, in Isaiah 51 and 12, the Most High says that he's our comforter, and that we shouldn't be afraid of any man. But in Isaiah 51 and 13, the Most High tells us that we forgot about him. The Most High says we forgot about him because we fear our oppressors. But we forgot that they don't have any power over us, only the power that he gave them. In Isaiah 51 and 17, the Most High says, awake, awake, stand up, O Jerusalem, which hath drunk at the hand of the Most High the cup of his fury. Thou hast drunken the dregs of cup of trembling, and wrung them out.
Zephaniah chapter 2 verse 1. Gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O nation not desired. before the decree bring forth, before the day pass as a chaff, before the fierce anger of the Most High come upon you, before the day of the Most High's anger come upon you.
This last scripture in Zephaniah, when I was reading it, it was entitled Judgment on Judah's Enemies. In Zephaniah 2:1, it's plainly put, it says, gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O nation not desired. In Zephaniah 2:1, we're instructed to gather together. But not only that, as you read further, look what it says. It says, before the decree bring forth, before the fierce anger of the Most High come upon you, before the day of the Most High's anger come upon you. So the Most High is telling us to gather before he brings these plagues. You know, one of the hardest things to see amongst our people is the fact that through all of the death and destruction going on with our people, we're one of the only people that won't unite for self-preservation. We won't unite for our children. But the Most High is telling us that this is exactly what we must do.
Rape. This is huge. This is huge. 67.6% of the rapes in America are committed by whites. 29.1% black. But I'm not surprised. Look at who's on TV being accused of all the sexual allegations. Mainly white males. So it pretty much matches up with what the table says. So, you know, so all of these white women running around talking about black men raping them, y'all full of shit. Your own men are raping you. That's who you're getting raped by. You're getting raped by your own men. You ain't getting raped by no black man. Probably wish you were getting raped by a black man. Alright, robbery. 43.4% of the robberies were committed by whites. 54.5% black. So that's 11.1% difference. 11.1% difference, okay. So now let's go down to aggravated assault. Ladies and gentlemen, from this point on, there is no doubt whites are light years ahead of blacks in crimes in the rest of these categories, and I'm going to show you. They are ahead by big double digits. Now let's go through this. Aggravated assault. White people, 62.8% of the aggravated assaults in America are committed by whites. 33.3% black. That's a hell of a difference. That's a hell of a difference. Burglary. 68.4% of the burglaries in America are committed by whites. 29.1% by blacks. They are robbing in leaps and bounds over black people. Larceny theft, 69% white, 27.7% black. Don't let these people get in your face no more with this black people are committing 50% of the crime and only 13% of the population. You can clearly see they made that shit up. That's just feel-good stuff. That's what I call it. It's feel-good stuff. Things that make them feel good, but the shit ain't nowhere near being true. Motor vehicle theft. Listen to this. Whites, 66%. Blacks, 30.7%. They are stealing way more cars than black people out here. Now, arson. Now, arson is not our thing. Black people ain't into no torching shit up. You know, not like white people are. Y'all torch shit up. Now, black people may do it here and there during riots, but for the most part, black people ain't trying to be out here torching no shit up like that. But listen to this. Arson, white people, 72%. So whenever you see things torched up out here in America, it's more likely a white person torching it up. 72% of the arsons are committed by white people. Okay? 23.3% black. So the next time you see something going up in flames, more likely it's a white person that did it. Now listen to this. Arson, violent crimes, right? Violent crimes. White people, 59%. Black people, 37.5%. That's a significant difference. Property crime, 68.7% white, 28.1% black. Huge difference.